in the last video we made this top title bar, the buttons to go between like chat, users, pictures, settings. We made that here. So we just press F5 to run. You'll see we made this nice little bar. So in this video we're going to make this chat list at the side. So it's going to be a way of making another custom control. In fact, I'm not sure whether we've even made a custom control yet. Yeah, we made a side menu control, so we've made a custom control in the last video. We're going to make another one for a chat list item here, and then another one for the list that holds all of those as well. So again, it's nice and simple. We'll just right click on the controls folder. We'll make a new one inside called chat, and then we'll just make a new user control, and we'll call this chat list item control. And based on some feedback from you guys, I've turned it on to dark mode, so it's not all bright white. And I've also made this font larger still. Some of you still want even bigger font, so let me know what you think about the size. Hopefully this is got the right size now. We're just going to change the namespace that Visual Studio does by default, which is to include all the folder names, which we don't want. So we just remove those, get rid of all the unused stuff, and there's a chat list item control. So this is going to be for an individual item like this one. So first we want let's set the size up to something realistic, so the height will be about I don't know, 60 say. Looks about right. Zoom in a little bit. So the background of the grid, we'll start with the foreground white colour, which is white. And then we want, as always, we want to figure out whether we want stack panels or grids. So in this case we've got a little red line which will indicate a new message. Then we've got the profile picture, and then we've got some text. So initially the overall container, we're going to do a grid with this being whatever size it needs to be, this being whatever size it needs to be, and then this to fill the rest, so that we go this way across. So it's a single column, single row with 3 columns. So we want to do grid.column definitions. Column definition, first one is auto, next one's auto, and third one is fill the remainder. We'll also comment these, so this is new message indicator bar, something like that. This one is profile picture, and this one is main content. And then the first thing, nice and easy, let's do the new message indicator bar. So background, for now we'll just do red. Width we'll do 5, and it's already in column 0. And there you go, there's the red indicator bar. Comment that again. Then we'll do the profile picture next. So profile picture is going to be a border with a corner radius, and then a border around the outside of that to give it the padding. So we want the outer border first. It's going to be in column 1, which is the second column. We want the padding, which we'll do say 8, and then inside that we'll put the thing that's going to be the background color. So we'll have the background will be, for now we'll just use the blue color, we'll change this as we go. The corner radius wants to be, basically you need it to be 50% of the width or the height. So in fact the first thing we'll do, we'll make the width equal to the height again. So that'll be the binding actual height. Relative source as relative source self. And that'll force it to be a permanent square. And then you can see we've now got a square that's coloured. And all we need to do with that is corner radius. And you could do, we know this is going to be 60 because we set it there. So basically you need a corner radius of 30 and it'll go all the way around. Doesn't hurt to go bigger, like 60. So all we'll do to make it always round is just bind this again. Basically bind it to the actual height again. So that you're going to get a corner radius that's twice as large as it needs to be. But WPF by default obviously doesn't go any further. So it stays perfectly round. In fact, inside that border then, we now need the text block with some text. Let's say LM. There's the LM. We'll make it vertically center, horizontally center. We'll make the foreground the white colour. And the font size wants to be, I think large is going to be too big, yep. So we need a new font size. Just press F12 on font size large to jump to the fonts XAML. We've got small, large, regular. So let's move them in order of size. I think we'll have one in between small and regular. Just call it average, I guess. These aren't the best of names, but it'll do. Change that to average. Let's see if that looks about right. I guess that's a nice size. I think the font wants to be a bit thicker though. Let's try regular. There we go. So that's it's pretty similar. So profile picture, padding, background, and this is initials. And then we'll override this as once we get the actual data from the web server and we've got profile pictures, which is a long way away. We'll then come back to this and make this like lazy load the picture and overlay this. So by default, until the picture loads, you'll see this. But for now, that's all we'll see anyway. So that's the circle thingy done, profile picture. And now we want to do the main content. So this is now this text. So what we want to do is, I guess we'll have a stack panel with two text. And we'll just float that vertically center so that whatever size we make it, it'll just stay central. So I think we want to start with a stack panel. Vertical align center. Get some text in there. Make sure it's in the right column. Yep, that's in the right column. So this font family needs to be thicker. I think they both want to be that. This is the name. This is message. This new chat app is awesome. So now you can see, let's finish this one off first. Wants to be the Facetto, not the Facetto, yeah, Facetto blue, no, word blue, whatever we called it. Word blue, there we go. And this wants to be slightly lighter. We need to come up with a better name for these colours as well, because they're not really very descriptive at the moment. So that's I That's okay, just a faded grey. Now you see the issue here, when it gets to the end, it's not finishing, it's just like the words just going away and cutting off. To do that nicer, you can add text wrapping, is it called? Yeah, text wrapping. No, not text wrapping. Text. What do we call it? Trimming. That's the one. Character ellipsis, and you'll see then it finishes with the dot dot dot. We'll put that on both. And we also want a bit of padding at the edge here. We've got the padding from the board, the thing there already of 8. So we'll put 8 this side as well. So let's just add padding of 8 there. Okay, I'll have to just wrap this stack panel in a border to get the padding. Move the column to the right place. We don't want padding all around, we just want it on the right. So left, top, right, bottom. There we go. So that looks not far off done, to be honest. That was easy. So there's our chat list item control. We'll tweak things and finish this off in a minute, but now we want to make a list control that can see that. Or if we want to just quickly take a look at that, let's go to the main window. In the side menu control, let's just build the project first, make sure it's all okay, that we haven't screwed anything up. Yeah, that's fine. So in here, do local chat list item control. Oh yeah, it's just going to grow inside for the moment. Let's just force that to height of 60 for the moment. And ooh, not that. So something like that. Let's press F5. Let's see what it looks like. And there we go, that looks really nice. Compare that to what we had. Obviously this is larger, but that's pretty close. In fact, it's almost pixel perfect. So maximize that. Now we need to put this in a list, and we obviously will do the hover effects and that afterwards. So we get rid of the chat list item control. Now what we're going to do is make another control. This is taking nowhere near as long as I thought it would. I thought it was going to be a really long video. Chat list control. Now for lists, generally of any kind, you've got a lot of options. Well, you haven't got a lot of options. You've got a items control, which is your lowest level virtualizing collection. So basically anything where you've got, you know, a list of things. Your lowest level is your items control, which doesn't have scrolling technically, but you just wrap it in a scroll viewer and you've got scrolling. You go one up from that and you've got something called a list box, and a list box is inherited from an items control and has the ability to, I believe, select items, and then up from that's a list view, which adds a few more things. So we're going to stick at the lowest level because we're going to add all our own selection mechanisms and styling and everything else. So we just want a pure fundamental basic collection to host these chat items. So let's just clean up the namespace again as usual. That's that. And we will have in here start to go in the background. There's a big white background, really zoomed in as well. And then in here, as we mentioned, we'll need it to be inside a scroll viewer, otherwise it won't scroll, with it being a basic items control. We want the scroll bars to only appear when we need them. And then in there we want an items control. And the items control item template, so the things that are going to be inside of it, which is a data template, is going to be the chat list item controls. So it's basically just an items control that has a load of chat list items. Now, in order to see that in here visually, we're going to use data binding. We're going to use view models. So we need to actually start making some view models for this. So let's add a new folder called chat. Then let's add a new class. We'll call this chat. We'll start with the chat list item view model. So the model for each of these. And again, you can change this as you go, so you don't need to overthink it, just add what we need right now. So we've got a view model for each chat list item in the overview chat list. It's going to be a base view model. It's going to be public. And we're going to have we need a name for this. We need initials for here. We need the message here. Start with that. Message. Initialize, initials. We'll need this color as well, because we're going to make this color up. We're going to make it random. So the other thing to bear in mind as well, I mentioned before, these view models are going to be moved out of the WPF project as it grows. So these are going to be like a universal class. So even though these are going to be bound to views, you can't put anything in here that's relevant to WPF. So like this is going to turn into a brush for color this background, but we can't go ahead and put a solid brush, I think it is, solid color brush or something. So you don't want to do this. You don't want to start including WPF namespaces or objects like this, because this is not going to just work for WPF. This can be moved on to Android and iOS and all your other platforms. So in order to get a color, we're going to keep it as a basic color. So profile picture, red, green, blue, and just a string. And then what we're going to do in WPF is convert that with a value converter to then the WPF brush. So never put anything in your view models that relates to an actual UI, like WPF. And I mentioned before as well, we actually did it here, where we passed in the window, which is not usually what you do. But like we mentioned, this view model is actually specific for WPF, so that was the exception there. But in general, your view model should have no link to WPF, and that's why when we move it to another project, which I think we'll probably do in the next video, into a core project that doesn't even know about WPF, then you won't be able to make that mistake anyway. So profile picture, this is the RGB values in hex for the background color of the profile picture. For example, FF00, FF4, red and blue mixed. And that'll do for now. Again, don't overthink these, just make them and go from there. Then we'll jump back one. We'll go back to this. So you can see here I've just typed this. Obviously this is no good because we need to data bind. So each of these items is going to be data bound to a chat list item view model. So we need to then say change this content now. So this LM would have to be binding to initials, which is the name we've just given this view model. So it's this. And then you can see here now it's disappeared. So it's okay doing it visually and then binding, but then you've lost your value. And then there's a little trick you could do here, do fallback value, and you can put LM back in. So you could then visually see. But the issue with fallback value is it's there in case this fails or there's no value. I think it's if this fails, and then there's a null target null value as well when there is no value. But the issue I don't like with fallback value is that if for whatever reason this did fail, the user's going to end up seeing what you write here in the live application. So you don't want to do that. So the way we get around this is we're going to get this bound. So the list is going to bind these controls. So these are going to get the data they need. But in the designer now, what we're looking at here, we can actually set a data context here, and we want to make what we'll call a design model, which is basically just this view model just pre-populated with this, design time data, something for us to look at when we're designing. So we'll call this design models, or just call it design for now. And then we've got a chat list item view model, so we'll add another class, chat list item design model. Clear up the namespaces. I wish Visual Studio wouldn't do that. This is a public class. The design time data for a chat list item view model. And this is actually going to inherit from a chat list item view model. And all we're going to do is create a constructor. So CTOR double tab. So press the tab key twice, it'll automatically create this. Wrap this in a region. Comment. So then when we create a new version of this, we want to fill in the initials equals LM, name equals Luke, message equals this chat app is awesome, profile, what's it called? Profile picture RGB equals, and then we want the this color, which is basically Faceto blue. So we'll use that as an example for now, which is in styles, colors, and while we're here, actually, we've got the blue brush. We want a, in fact, we've got a light blue brush as well, which was for this, but then this is even lighter, so we've got a very light blue. And the very light blue I've written down from Photoshop somewhere is EC F6FB. So that's a very light blue. So we're going to nick this blue color for our RGB value here. And that's it. So now we want to be able to make use of this design model at design time, so in here visually, to get this information back. So the same as the text here is going to be binding to name, and the text here is going to bind to message. So you can see it's all disappeared. We will data bind, but we need to data bind to an instance. So if we just do or in fact this is a bit different, this is a singleton. So what a singleton is when you get a single instance of an object. So it literally means a single, a single version. And this is kind of a singleton. So it'll just be a public static, because we want a single, obviously static's a single instance in itself. A single instance of this, called instance. And for that, we'll just return, and I'll go back and show you that. This is a property. So just a getter that I think we've covered properties. I might do a video specifically on properties actually. But we've used properties. We obviously use them in all the view models. So it's just a getter to get the property. You can't set it, and it's going to return a new chat list item design model. So basically, it's only ever going to return. Complaining about that. Oh yeah, this is just my. I've added a new thing as well that complains at me if I don't use the style that I expect to use. So this isn't an actual error. This is my. I've got an editor config file that again I'll probably explain, that gives me warnings like this because I don't want to do this style of properties anymore. So we'll cover that anyway now. So this is perfectly valid now. This basically gets a new chat list item, which is actually wrong in this way because it's not a singleton, but it does the job. Basically, you're going to get a new design model. It's good enough for what we want. But instead of doing a getter like this, it's exactly the same thing, but there's a new way of doing it in C#7, I think it is now. And basically, you replace the outer brackets and the word get. If it's a getter only, you just get rid of all that, and you do equals greater than, the same as we do for most, and then we just get rid of those at the back as well, and get rid of the return statement. And then this now is the exact same thing, just a shorthand version of a property. So if you hover over, you can see you've got a getter. You've got a getter property. So if you wanted to do a getter, this is like a quick way of doing it, is to just do greater than equals and then what you want it to be, and you don't have to write the angle brackets and get. So a single instance of the design model. And like I say, I'm not really thinking it through too much. I think every time you call this, you might get a new instance. But this is only used for design time. So if you wanted a true singleton, then you would make. Well, I'm not going to bother going into. I'll do singletons in a separate video. But basically, just think of this as you can see what it's doing. You gain a new design model. It might not be gaining a single instance, but good enough for what we want. So if we bind to this instance now, we'll basically just get a new copy of this class, which is what we want. That's the point of what we want at the moment. So chat list item design model dot instance is what we want to bind to. So I think you do x static chat list item design model dot instance. Maybe not. Yeah, I'm sure that maybe it just needs building. Yeah, just needed building. So you can see we've got all the properties back, but the issue here is we've bound the data context like hard. This is actually bound in runtime as well. So if we ran this application with this containing the item, it's still there. This is actual data in the application, as in if we run the application, that data's there, which is not what we want. This is purely for us visually to design. So this shouldn't show here. This is our design time data. So all you do for making it into showing purely for us designing is that's what this D is. If you've ever wondered what this D namespace here, expression blend is a tool that Microsoft made for designing XAML. So the namespace, they naturally just give the letter D, and then they've got some code in the background that basically tells runtime to ignore anything that starts with D. So like this design height, even though we tell it to be this size here, as you saw when we added it to this list, if we don't explicitly tell it the height, then it just ignores us at design time. So when you use D: as a prefix, it's only ever for this visual appearance here, and when you run the application it's no longer there. So the same for this data context. It's here right now for us visually, but we don't want it at runtime, so we just prefix it with the letter D colon. And now it still shows here, and it'll still show here if we build, just to get rid of that. But then the difference is now, oh well, actually it doesn't show there because this is more runtimey. So if we run now, you'll see that it's gone. You know, it's not there, which is what we want. So we can now visually design here with some content that we had in a design model, which we can now just go and change to, say, AA. I think you just have to build to get that to update because it's a code file. And then you'll see it updates here. So we can now, you know, style and mess with this UI without worrying about the user seeing, you know, our dummy data, if you will, that we're using just for visual design. So we call this design model. We've kind of made an instance here. I've called it singleton because I'm used to doing that. I'll do a video on properties and probably do singletons as well at the same video. But just think of this right now as you just get a single and just a copy of this class. So it's got to be static as well so that we can bind directly to it here. So that's all that's doing. We're allowing us to, this is just creating a copy of itself, but in the static, you know, a single version of it. And then here's where we fill it with the data we want. And then we're going to do the same thing now for, so we're quite happy with that for the moment. That can be done for now. We'll move on to this chat list, which is now going to host a list of those items. So again, we want a view model for that. So we'll just copy and paste the chat list item view model. A new feature in C# as well. I've copied the class. You can see down here it's got just the name as copy, and up here it's just a copy. A quick way now, instead of renaming the file then renaming the class, we just rename the class, and then you see this light bulb here. Click there and you can see now we've got the option to rename file to the same name as the class. So it says copy right now up there and it's the wrong name, chat list item view model. We click this and it goes ahead and renames it to chat list view model for us. So that's like a nice feature. You can copy and paste a class, rename the class in code and have it rename the file for you, nice and easy. So a view model for the chat list, the overview chat list. And then this is just going to have one thing right now, which is just a list of chat list item view models. I'll just call it items. And that's it. Then this chat list again will be bound by the parent whenever we come to do that. So it will be bound to this view model, but again we want to design here visually and see this list. So let's copy and paste the design model of the previous one, do the same again, rename the class, click the light bulb, rename the file. This is now a chat list view model. The design time data for a chat list view model, singleton is same class. Oh no, this class. And then in the constructor, which is now called this. And again, if you're not sure what I'm doing here, I'm holding Control and clicking, and that pre-selects a name. Control C to copy. Keep Control pressed again. Click somewhere else. Control V to paste. So it's like a really quick way. If you want to copy and paste, say, class to somewhere, hold Control, click class, Control C, click, say, here, Control V, and I've still got Control pressed anyway. I just leave my finger on Control, press Control V, and then click here, Control V, here, Control V. So you know, it's like when you see me copying and pasting things fast, that's how I'm doing it. So now in this design time data for the chat list design model, we want the items to be a new Ooh, don't want a big namespace. A new list, and the list wants to contain a new chat list item view model, yeah. And then in here, we want to now set the name to Luke, initials to LM, message to, I'm getting a bit tired of writing the same message. Let's just go to, every time I've done this it would have been easier to type it again, but never mind. In fact, could have just copy and pasted the whole thing. And the reason you see me using commas here instead of colons is because we're creating a new class, but then directly at the same time as creating a new class we open the curly brackets, and this is like a way of setting the properties on the class in one big line. So it's, if we were to do say create the new class this way, and then you do a.name equals some name, that would be a semicolon. But you can see again the style I've made now, this code editor's saying you can simplify it. So it's actually telling us we can change the way this is instantiated to, instead of creating the class called A and then doing a.name as this, a.message as this, a.profile as this, and repeating yourself with this a dot, you can just basically get rid of the N3, open up curly brackets, move that inside, and then you have to change these to commas instead of colons, and you get rid of the a dot, and then you put your colon at the end there. So again, a different syntax that you'll get used to the more you see it, but just in case you wondered why I'm putting commas here, not colons, it's because if you look closely I'm creating a new class, but then I'm actually opening it up like a function without the parentheses. So we haven't got the parentheses. You can have them, but you don't need them. And then instead of basically creating the class like that and finishing, I'm directly opening it up and then creating stuff inside. So this is like an inline way of making the items. So that's how I've made them. If you're struggling to understand what's going on there, it's exactly the same as doing items equals a new list of items, items.add, new chat list item view model, and then you'd have to break that out as well. So var item equals new chat list item, and then you'd have to do copy and paste all this. And then again, I want to put item in front of all of these. Click here, hold the Alt key, and drag down. And this is where you can select, an area. So hold the Alt there and drag down, and now you can paste into there and put a dot, and then everything gets that text. So created a new item, and then in the items itself, you add the item. So, and again, ignore this. This is just my editor telling me I can do it better. So this is exactly the same as this, but you can see here we've had to create a new items, then create a new item for each item we want to add, then we've got to set that item up, then we've got to add it. Whereas this way, the items is created here, just the same as it is here, but then we've wrapped this item inside, and then as well as that, we've wrapped setting the properties of the item inside itself again. So this creates a new list, and then inside that list it adds this item, and inside that item it sets up these properties. So it's like a cascading way of doing exactly this. So this is more likely what you'll see on maybe books and other videos and things. It's kind of again getting a bit old now. So this is how you used to do it, and you can still do it this way, but it's kind of, there's no need. This is like a cleaner way. So if this item was called I don't know, some really long boring name, and then you're setting this property, and if you were setting 50 properties, you can see what's happening. You end up with this, and then if you're setting, which we will be, we're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 of these, times that by 7, you can see what you're going to start getting. You're going to get a really horrible, repeating code. So might not look much doing it this way at the moment, but obviously the more you add, like now, we've made 1, gonna make 2, 3. We'll do 3 for now, but already you can see that stays nice and clean. It's really easy to see, and you can just get straight to your data. So hopefully that made sense. Kind of went off on a tangent a bit there. So just gonna fill in a bit more of this dummy data, this design time data. So hey dude, here are the new icons. And then this is like a yellowy, I don't know. Well, I'll just come up with some random colours for now. No idea. I don't know what colour that's going to be, but doesn't matter for now. For now. The new server's up. That'll do for now. And again, this colour will just have a kind of green colour, say, don't know, 05, bit of blue in it. So that'll do for the moment. So that's 3 design time data. So we've made an instance of it there again. So now in the chat list control, we can do the same design time only data context. That's going to be static, and it's going to be chat list design model dot instance. And I think, again, if we build, that should be all we need, and we should see 3 items, hopefully. Helps if you bind the items control to the items. So items, I think it is items source. We've obviously got we've bound to the instance of this chat list design model, but that instance obviously it's this chat list view model. We've got to bind to the items of this. So the items control that's going to have them, we bind to items. Wait, there we go. That doesn't quite look right. Yeah, let's run it and see. Something's not quite looking right there, but actually we're not going to see it there because it's design time only. Let's see if we change this to chat list control. Run this. Oh, I'm saying it doesn't look right. It is, but we haven't set the size. And I'm thinking we've set the colour. All the text is there, we can see it, but the height's wrong. So, as we mentioned, the chat list item control, this is design time height only. So we want to actually set the height. So we want to define the control as a set height of 60 in runtime. And that should, we recompile this, you should see, there we go, that's the height, right, so that looks better now. So there's that. So now we just want to change these colours to match the colour we've got. So to do that, we need a new value converter, and we need to go to the control again. This control, zoom this in. And where did we put the colour? Somewhere around here. Where are we? There. So this background colour wants to now be bound. It's to the profile. There we go. Profile picture RGB. But that's just a string. So we need to now convert that. So we need a converter. And that's going to be local. And we've got a Boolean to visibility converter. So let's just go and copy that and create a new converter. Copy paste, open up string RGB to brush converter. Click the little light bulb, rename the file. Copy that name, paste it into the type. Converter that takes in an RGB string such as FF and converts it to a WPF brush. So don't care about parameter, value, and then this is really easy. So return a solid color brush, which is what we want. There's going to be a new, I think it's called a brush converter. Yep, make a new brush converter and convert it from, and this will need to be a string, and in that string it starts with a hash, because all RGB colors start with a hash, or a pound as you Americans watching call it, and then the value we passed in, so that will convert to, you know, a hash, and then basically it'll look like that, which is like a standard for RGB colors, but we don't want to bother keep passing in the hash all the time, and that's all there is to converting a string of RGB to a brush, thankfully, because Microsoft made this brush converter for us. So now we just make the converter this, and again dot instant, I think it is, or something. Just need building again. I can't remember what we did with this. I think it's either instance or you just maybe do that. Oh yeah, just needed building again. So then we've got the blue. So let's just check that worked. Let's edit the design time data. So FF0000, so just bright red. Build. And there you go. So that's now converting our string to the color. So that should mean, oh yeah, and there you go. So that's now using the blue, the reddy color, and the green that I just made up off the top of my head. And let's run this. I think I left it as a permanent data context so we can see it. Yep, so that's looking nice now. I think the last thing here, let's copy and paste a few more so you can check the scroll works. So we go to the design data for it, and let's just copy and paste this. And let's run that and see what that looks like. And there you go, you see we've now just about started getting the scroll bar. And obviously now this scroll bar will style. I'll make that another video though. This doesn't look very nice. We'll make it like a nice faded, just a blue bar that only shows when you're scrolling or when you hover. We need these to have hover effect as well, so let's just do that now. So I think we're gonna have to change up the where's it gone? We're gonna have to change this up a little bit. Oh, wrong one. Because we need a hover effect, and right now it's a user control with just a grid in, and we want a hover effect on the grid. So even though you can do that, I think the simpler thing is, instead of having this grid here, let's have just a content control, just a basic, you know, some content, and we'll move the design time binding onto that. Then that'll do for there, and then we're going to move this into a style of that's just inside this control. So just do user control dot styles, not styles dot resources, and then we want a new style with a key. I'll just call it content style because it's only available inside this control anyway. The target type. Oh, what the? How do you know with the stack panel? I thought I typed style. Target type is we're going to be styling this content control now, which purely holds the content. And then inside that style, we want property is template. And then set the value onto control template, where the target type is again content control. So all that boils down to just being able to paste that grid back in. And it's messed up our tabs. So there we go, that's all the grid pasted in. And then we need to add this content style to now the content itself here. So style static resource content style. Oh yeah, that worked. So that should have updated. Maybe we just need to build. There we go. So now we've got, where's my zoom gone? There. Now we've got this exactly the same, if you will. So it still just looks the same, but what we've done now is move the grid into a style and then made a single content control as part of the control and styled it with that, and then move the binding here. But what we've gained now, because we're inside a control template, which is what we needed, we can now add, we had the grid. After this, we can now copy and paste the same styles in, say, buttons for mouse over, style triggers, or was it mouse enter and leave? There we go. So these type of control template triggers, so when the mouse goes over, change it to this color, and you can run a storyboard now straight from the control template. So basically just copy this trigger that we did before for a hover effect on one of the buttons, paste it here, give it a bit of a description, and when you hover over this is where we want to use that very light blue we made. And when you've done, you want to go back to the foreground light color, which is there. You don't get IntelliSense for static resources inside of control templates for some reason, so it doesn't pop up with the name. So I'll just copy and paste it. Yep, so hover blue, go light, target name border. There's the thing, we need to name it. Same with here, target name border. So it's not border in our case, it's going to be this entire grid. So call this container, copy that, and then make sure we're styling the container. And I think if we just run that now, we should have hover effects. Color animation, blah de blah, is not valid for property 2. Oh, I know what I've done. Got to love copy and paste. I pasted the brush, and an animation as a color, not a brush, so just get rid of the word brush. And there we go. We've got a nice little hover effect on, hovering between them. So that's mostly done. We'll quickly bind this red thing to another property, just so we can make it look visually more appealing. I like how Visual Studio keeps swapping my windows around every time I close. So we have, I'm not used to the text being this huge, it's really hard to navigate. So background red, actually background red's fine, width is there, visibility collapsed, or now there's the thing, we want this bar to come over. We don't want this to push out, because then these will be out of line. So if we had this, collapsed or visible, then you can see this moves over. So we actually want to get rid of this bar, and this is going to combine into 2, but now we're just going to shift this to the first column, this to the second column, if you will. Yeah, it should have worked. Oh yeah, it has worked. We just now need to make sure this is horizontally to the left. So there we go. So this is basically the profile picture and the bar are stacked on top of each other, if you will. And then this looks a bit thick. Let's make that 3. So now if we hidden showed this red bar, it basically just cuts into the padding. So it's on the same line. It won't sort of offset this. It'll keep it central. And in fact, we can probably, that looks a bit thin. We'll either go with 4, or if 4 looks too thin still. No, it looks just right actually, so 4 looks good. So now we want to basically just hide that when we have a Boolean property. So we need to go to the chat list item view model. We'll add another property here, public Boolean, new content available. True if there are unread messages in this chat. So we want to bind to new content available as the visibility. So it's going to be binding that converter is Boolean to visibility converter. So now by default they should all disappear because a Boolean by default is false and we haven't set any up. No. Oh, I know why, because our Boolean to visibility converter is by default back to front. So we added the converter parameter option to flip it round. You just basically state anything you want in there. We should probably change this as well to be a bit more obvious that Boolean to visibility by default and make it visible. So there we go, they're all hidden. And now if we go to the design mode, design model, my brain's a bit slow, as you can see it's 5:58 in the morning, so I've had 3 hours sleep, hence why I'm a little bit slower this morning. New content available is true, so we're going to flag this first message as new. There we go. So I always like how we can do a Photoshop file and then make it practically identical really easily with WPF. So we've got the red bar that's now bound to a property as well. We've got the hover effects. Let's go one step further. This is a selected chat, so this is like, you know, the active chat. So let's make a selected chat stay that colour so it looks again just right. And then I think that menu's done by the scroll bar, so that's looking quite good. And then we can obviously bind to click events and things as we need. So let's add one more property to this item. Whoops, what have I pressed? F11. Told you it was too early. There we go. Public. Forgot what I said now. What were we doing? Oh yeah, is selected. Is selected. Get set. True if this item is currently selected. And we'll make the Parnell one selected. And now we'll bind this to it somehow. We can do it in here. Copy and paste the trigger, property, trigger, data trigger maybe. I can't remember. Search for data trigger. I know we've done this somewhere. Binding, templated parent text. Maybe that'll work. give it a go. So binding to is selected. I don't know if this will work with it being the view model. It's not actually on the templated parent. I don't think this will work, but let's see. Property, target name container. There you are. Key cannot be null. I wonder if it's just that. Property background targets that, and this is very light blue. Okay, I don't think this will work, so I think I've done the binding wrong, but let's see. Background needs to be a brush. And it works. Oh, yeah, well, let's do that again. It works, but my mouse keeps appearing over the exact same spot. Let me leave the mouse up here. So you'll see what's happening is, it's set there now, so the panel is highlighted, but as soon as you go over, then this event trigger here is overriding this one. So let's see if we can just move that above as like kind of a priority maybe. Or whether we need to do something to prevent this mouse leave from overriding that property. Yeah, so we need to do something to prevent this. Where's it gone? To prevent this event trigger overriding this value. So we could either do two colors, which we don't really want. You know, overlay another color on hover. Actually, that's not a bad idea because we might want the background to be different than the selected color. Let's do that. So we've got the container right now, which we're covering here. And then this background will change to, we'll call it background. Because then we could have a background highlighted one color, but when you hover, you still get a hover effect. So we have, this is a container, which is going to get the background of whatever color. We'll wrap this, in fact we'll wrap the entire thing in a border with the name container, which will get the color of the mouse hover. Which way around do we want it? We want the mouse hover to go over the top, don't we? So no, all the way around. This will be the background, which will get the color of selected, and then there we go. So now the background, which is here, that you can see, if we set the background color to red, notice you can't see it because the container's got a color. So we got rid of the container color, you'd see there. So by default we'll move the background color up here to there and leave the container empty, and then what we need to do is just tweak the container when you let go, instead of being light, to basically go to transparent, so that it disappears. So I think that should work now. It's one way of getting around the issue anyway. So there's Parnell. Oh, cannot resolve all references and background color. We haven't set the color. So because there is no color, background's nothing, it's null. It can't set the background color. So we just need to explicitly set the background here to transparent, so that it's got a color, so then it can change the color of the container. Otherwise there's no color to set. There we go, finally. So now we've got a selected, and you've also got a hover. So we could change those two colors around if we wanted. In fact, you just see it slightly. You do get a visual effect, even though it's technically the same thing. So I think that's a good way of doing the chat so far. We've now bound the selected, the new message, all the details. We'll fix the scroll bar in another video, and then as we go, as we progress and we get data coming into here, we'll have maybe like 3 ellipses appearing here that you can click and a menu slides out over the message with options to, like, you know, delete or reply, or, you know, the message options, whatever we want to do with the message. And then I think we've got this we'll do next as well. The, you know, the main chat bubble screen and the right. This will be a huge thing here. This nice, unassuming little text box here. I can tell you from past experience, there's going to be so much involved in this one control. You wouldn't believe how much is going to go into this. So this is probably going to be like 3 videos long to get this right message box. So we'll probably do these bubbles first because that'll be easier, and this box up here. But hopefully this video has been useful again, and hopefully the text has been big enough this time. Let me know what you think about the size of the font, and I hope you enjoyed.